Now, I am absolutely delighted to welcome back to the Babar Bar stage, after an absence of probably a couple of years in the pandemic, the wonderful Julia Kai-Taylor.
I need a microphone. I also need my clicky thing. Thank you. Right, and it's all there. So, well, how wonderful to be here again. It was, I think it was about 2 years ago. And thank you, Tim, for giving me the opportunity to talk about my passion, but I am going to have to fit 51 years into 15 minutes. So this actually doesn't, my passion's running. I don't look as if I'm having a very nice time there. I think it was this summer at Tooting Beck, and I was probably at lap 12 of a 12 and a half lap race. But actually, running, I am 64 years old, and the story goes that I never walked, I never crawled. But what happened was I just got up and started to run, and I've never stopped. And then, but actually, the real passion isn't so much running. Running happens, but what I love doing, and I've loved it since I was a tiny thing, is trying to run fast, and trying to beat my time, and trying to beat my time in races. I absolutely love races. And so, when I was 8 years old, I used to get my father to take me to the playing fields, and then I would run from one end to the other as fast as I could, and he'd time me, and then I'd go, time me again, Daddy, time me again. So I'd try again and again and again. And then this led on to when I was 13, is when I first started competing in proper races. It was the Farnham and District Sports, and that's not me, Farnham and District Sports, but that was 51 years ago, and I loved it. And I was running in my bare feet then. I've been a mixture between running in bare feet and shoes my whole life. And then when I was 14, I ran in the Surrey schools. And then when I was 15, I ran in the Surrey schools. And then I decided I wanted to run for England. It took me 4 years. It took me 4 years and quite a few failures to get there. And as I say, I've only got 15 minutes to do the 51 years. So we'll zoom 4 years to my first international best when I was 19. And then the next 15 years, I spent running at top level, having an amazing career. But there are a few things that stand out, and a few kind of events. So when I don't know if any of you remember 1984, well, some of you remember 1984, but Zola Budd came, and funny we're talking about South Africa, Zola Budd came over to run. She was a white South African, she was 18 years old, she had a kind of family link, which meant she could get a British passport. It was hugely controversial on many levels with athletes because she took a British place. Politics, she had a lot of protesters outside all the places that she was running. She was 18 years old, I think it was hugely difficult for her. But I had the amazing experience of running in a world record race she ran. She ran 2,000 metres, July 1984, and I was made up for British field. Now, I wasn't a 2,000 metre runner. My events, really, everything from 5K to marathon was the events I ran as a top athlete. But they were making up a British field. They knew she was going for a 2,000 record. I was a good runner, so they put me in the field. But firstly, before I show you the clip, we have to say that, well, maybe I'll show you the clip. So here we are. So 2 things. I have a different name because I was married to someone else, and actually weddings and getting married is another of my passions, but that's for another babble. So my name was Julia Gates then. I also had orange hair at the time because, I'm on the outside, because on Christmas Eve, just before that race, I had suddenly decided to go from blonde to henna, and I put 2 boxes of henna on my hair. There I am on the outside, number 14, with my orange hair. And what was amazing about that race was I kind of went through, to be honest, my personal best for 800 in its 5-lap race. The first 2 laps, I practically went through my best time for 800 metres. I was hanging on to the back of the field. But what was incredible was I had the experience of being in the race, not actually minding where I came in the race, and the crowd at Crystal Palace. I filed out onto the track with Zola. She was tiny, weeny little thing, and I had just been behind her, and I was like this great, big, strong thing compared to this little, tiny thing in bare feet. And then the crowd at Crystal Palace were on their feet. And to be in that experience with the world record being run, where I didn't actually care about my own performance, was just an incredible, and a wonderful thing and a wonderful privilege to be part of that history. Then, the middle 80s were actually my best years. We go on to 1985. Oh, I think we do. in 1985, here I'm still Julia Gates, I'm still married to this one. There I am, winning the Dublin City Marathon, and that was an incredible experience. So, coming into that final straight, I recognise how fortunate I am to have that experience. I can't remember the name of the street in Dublin, but it's a great big street. As I came round, I had the camera van, the radio mic. They tried to interview me at 23 miles because I looked quite relaxed. And they tried to do a radio interview with me, which was not easy. And I'm coming into the final part of the race. I've got a radio van with television cameras. I've got a helicopter above me. I've got police vehicles either side. So, you know, there could have been anything going on. And the crowd again were roaring, but then they were roaring for me. And that was obviously a very, very peak experience. So winning a race is wonderful. We then go on to, so that was October 85. I carried on getting very fit, and in the April 86, I was the 7th British finisher in London Marathon. I was the 3rd British finisher, and that qualified for the Commonwealth Games. So this was my biggest success. So here I am. Well, no, there's obviously 2 clicks. Still Julia Gates. 2 years. Actually, this guy has got the record at the moment. This guy here, who's number 5, he's going for the PB. So this is another Bavard, but I think he's going to get the PB. So there I am, 287. I look very worried because I was injured. Because I had walked across, it was in Edinburgh, I had sustained an injury before London, which had jutted down my left side, but I'd limped my way through the training. I was super fit, but I was injured. I'd walked to that race in tears across the meadows in Edinburgh. I don't know if people probably know the Meadows is a big place in Edinburgh. And I was crying because I knew that I was going in on a wing and a prayer. Well, the prayer didn't happen, neither did the wing. And at 20 miles, I had to stop and watch my dreams go on without me. And that was very hard. I was 27, I think, 1986, I was 27. One of the very hardest things to have such a public failure, to have had all my friends and family gather, to, fail on the television cameras. But I remember that Steve Avett, I don't know if you remember Steve Avett, I went back to the team and I was lying having a massage, and he was on the bed next to me, and he said, "Julia, there are other races, don't worry." And he was so kind. And then that night, loads of friends, family, my brother stood up and did a speech, and he said to everybody, "It doesn't matter what Julia's done today, what matters is she gathered us all." Now that was very hard for me to understand at 27, having failed and at my biggest dream, but I really, really grew. I really learned, because I learned, and here, I think I've got to do 2 clicks. Yes, so I really learned. This is obviously the Rudyard Kipling quote. "If you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those 2 impostors just the same, then the world and all that's in it will be yours." And I learned that. I learned that the hard way. I learned it through big failure, public failure, but I knew that I was learning something deep, and that actually it was important that to be able to truly, truly meet with whatever happens in our life, and to be able to be in our true centre and carry on. So I was carrying on. I think about a year later, I was part of the New York team, not the New York team, the British team. We ran the New York Marathon, and I was 2nd or 3rd team, I can't remember, it's so long ago. But I'd got back on the horse, I'd got going again. But I was in a hurry. I was in such a hurry, because then I felt that everybody would stop. By 30, the thing I loved doing, I'd have to stop. I envied actors, I envied singers, people I deemed would carry on doing their passion all of their life. And my passion was to run, but my passion was to try and run fast. My passion was to race. My passion was to see if I could do better than I'd done before. So I was in a hurry, which meant I went through a cycle of understanding that there was a need to just run fearlessly without any attachment to an outcome. But I was in this big hurry, so I would often try too hard. I'd get ill, I'd get injured. But I did learn how to let go. Yes, when we detach ourselves from the outcome, we become free from fear. And actually, that was something that I knew that the best races I ran was when I was fearless, when I didn't have an attachment. I didn't have I always had a goal, but that was different. But I didn't get attached to the outcome, and I ran completely fearlessly. And also, what was interesting was I discovered that the running race never ends, because what happened was I got fearless and I would run, and I carried on running very fast till I was in my early 30s. But I still love running fast, but what happened is, the truth of the matter is that I've actually got faster and faster and faster and faster and faster, then I've got slower and slower and slower and slower and slower. But the passion is trying to run fast. What I absolutely love is the racing. What I absolutely love is trying to beat my time. And actually, by being able to let go of the attachment to an outcome, have a goal, that's a different thing, but the lines in the sand have changed. And so now, here I am, 64, and I'm running still, and this summer, this is the race in Tooting Bec. I'm looking a bit better than I was in the picture at the beginning. And there we are, we're all. This is the Veterans Athletics Club Championships in Tooting Bec, and it happened in June this year, and we're all got to be 40 or over, and we've all got different age groups, and it's no different. So even though the time I ran there is 5 minutes, I think, slower than my top 5,000 metre time. 6 minutes, I think that right, Nige? Yes, at least 6 minutes slower, but it feels the same. Trying to race, all of us on the track together, racing each other, going for it, doing our best fearlessly. It's exactly the same, and it's a joy to experience my passion still at 64. And and here, this was again in June this year. I'm in the Regent's Park running a 5K. I'm actually the fourth female here. Julia smashed it. I'm the first over 60-year-old. I have a tendency to win the over 60-year-old age group, but it doesn't matter, does it? I'm like racing everybody. I like racing the guys, I like racing the young women, I like racing anybody who wants to race me, come and race me. Actually, when I was a teenager, I used to go to parties and end up, everybody else was smoking dope and drinking alcohol, and I never really got on with either of them because I was always keen on being a runner. But I always would have the boys. We used to wear long skirts in the 70s, well, we do now, don't we, to parties. And I'd hitch up my skirt and tuck it in my knickers, and then I'd be racing the boys. And this was, I think, my way of kind of, flirting. And so I still like racing the boys, I still like racing the girls, I like racing everybody. And another click. Oh no, that wasn't. We want to go back. I think there's a. Oh well. No, I don't. Oh yes. Sorry. Now we've got to go forward too, haven't we? So I don't know how to get it to go. I'll hand it to my assistant. So a month ago, what's fun these days is a month ago I came to Hastings and I was doing a Zen day. And that's another bavard as well. But there's the Hastings Park Run. And so I ran in the park run in the morning on the Saturday. And because they do this whole thing that they account for people of a certain, all the ages, they do percentages. So I can end up being the absolute top of the leaderboard just because I'm 64. You end up getting this great accolade. So what I've found is that the run fearlessly, keep trying to run fast even if I'm getting slower, keep running races, and then here's to the next 51 years.
Julia Clay Taylor, everyone. Thank you.